The boardroom was heavy with tension, the kind that clung to the skin like damp fog on a London morning. Ethan Rhodes, once the golden boy of Titan Industries, stood tall at the head of the gleaming oak table. His sharp grey suit and commanding voice usually drew silent respect. But not today. Today, there was betrayal in the air. Nathaniel Crane sat among the board members, a smirk barely hidden behind his tailored appearance. Documents had been circulated. Votes had been counted. Ethan watched as hands he had once trusted now turned against him, one by one. His chest tightened as the chairman cleared his throat, delivering the final blow. Effective immediately, Ethan Rhodes is relieved of his duties as Chief Executive Officer of Titan Industries. The room blurred for a moment. Ethan fought to steady his breath. He caught Rachel Carter's eye from across the table. She shook her head slightly, her face pale, her loyalty unspoken but firm. Nathaniel rose slowly, buttoning his jacket with the smugness of a man who had played all his cards perfectly. As he walked past Ethan, he leaned in, his voice a low whisper. "You built it, Ethan. But you forgot. I was always watching." The words stung deeper than Ethan wanted to admit. He turned without another word, collecting nothing from the table except a single pen, the same one he had used to sign the founding papers of Titan Industries. Outside, the rain had begun to fall, tapping rhythmically against the pavement. Ethan walked through the grand glass doors for the last time, his reflection distorted and broken in their polished surface. But this was not the end. Not even close. Deep in his chest, something hardened. Ethan knew he still had allies. He still had fire. And above all, he had nothing left to lose. The streets of London waited before him, cold and merciless, as he disappeared into the crowd, already planning his next move. The cafe was hidden between two aging bookshops on Fleet Street, its windows misted with steam and the rich scent of roasting coffee beans. Ethan pulled the collar of his coat higher against the chill as he slipped inside, scanning the dim room. In a back corner, a woman in a navy trench coat raised her hand slightly. It was Rachel Carter. Ethan made his way over, his boots silent against the worn wooden floor. Rachel wasted no time. She slid a folded piece of paper across the table. "These are the ones still loyal to you," she said, her voice low. Ethan unfolded the paper. 5 names. 5 people he had once mentored, trusted, believed in. He nodded grimly. "I thought there would be more," he murmured. Rachel shrugged, her eyes weary. "Nathaniel moves fast. He's already securing the supply lines, buying loyalty with favors and promises." Ethan leaned back, the leather of the booth creaking under his weight. His mind raced, piecing together the fragments of a plan. "You are not safe, Ethan," Rachel added. "They'll come after you. You know something Nathaniel cannot risk getting out." A bell jingled as a new customer entered. Instinctively, Ethan dipped his head lower, shielding his face. The newcomer glanced around before settling at a far table. No immediate threat, but Ethan's pulse quickened nonetheless. "Where do we start?" he asked. Rachel gave a tight smile. "We start with what Nathaniel wants most. His secret acquisition." Ethan frowned. He had heard whispers in the corridors during his final days at Titan. Rumors of a new technology, something groundbreaking. Something dangerous if placed in the wrong hands. Rachel leaned closer, her voice barely audible above the clink of cups and soft murmur of conversation. "They call it Project Helix." The name sent a chill through Ethan's bones. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the windows like a warning. The game had changed. And the clock was ticking. The safe house was a crumbling flat above a boarded-up chemist near the Thames. Paint peeled from the ceiling, and the dim lighting flickered with every gust of wind. Ethan sat by the window, watching raindrops race each other down the glass. Rachel had gone to secure transport. In the meantime, Ethan reviewed the file she had given him. Project Helix. It wasn't just another invention. It was a biological interface, rumored to allow real-time manipulation of the human genome. The potential was staggering. Cures for incurable diseases. Enhancements beyond normal human capability. Or weapons designed at the cellular level. A knock at the door startled him. 3 short taps, a pause, then one more. The signal. Ethan opened the door cautiously. A tall figure in a drenched hoodie stepped inside, lowering the hood to reveal a young man with sharp features and cautious eyes. "Lewis Crane," the man said, offering a hand. Rachel sent me. Ethan shook it briefly. You're one of the 5. Lewis nodded, glancing nervously over his shoulder. Word's getting around. Nathaniel's offering double salaries and other incentives. Some of the others might not stay loyal for long. Ethan's stomach twisted. He couldn't trust anyone blindly. Not anymore. Lewis produced a flash drive from his pocket. Blueprints. Schematics. Everything I could grab before the system locked me out. Ethan plugged the drive into his laptop. Heart pounding. Lines of code and images filled the screen. Blueprints for Helix's prototype device. Notes on test subjects. Alarming success rates. Suddenly, a warning flashed across the screen. Trace detected. They had been found. Ethan yanked the drive out, slammed the laptop shut. Go. Now. He barked. Lewis didn't hesitate. Together they bolted down the fire escape, boots slipping on the wet iron steps. Shouts echoed behind them. Figures in black tactical gear emerged from the shadows, guns drawn. Ethan grabbed Lewis by the arm and pulled him into a narrow alley. Bullets ricocheted off the walls as they sprinted into the maze of the old docks. The river loomed ahead, cold and merciless under the stormy sky. They had barely escaped. But the net was closing. And somewhere deep within Titan's headquarters, Nathaniel Reed watched a blinking red in a screen, a cold smile playing on his lips. The city blurred around them as Ethan and Lewis raced through the wet labyrinth of Southbank. Horns blared. Neon lights reflected off puddles, making the ground seem like it was on fire. They ducked into a deserted underground station, long abandoned since the Blitz. The platform was cracked and forgotten, swallowed by the years. The silence down there was unnerving, broken only by the distant hum of the city above. Ethan leaned against a cold pillar, catching his breath. Lewis paced like a caged animal. We can't keep running forever, Lewis said, voice raw. No, Ethan agreed. We need to hit back. Hard. From inside his coat, Ethan pulled out a battered map. Points were marked in red ink. Known Titan operations, safe houses, resource hubs. One name circled twice. Hawthorne Vault. Rachel had mentioned it briefly, whispering in the safe house before leaving. Hidden beneath the shell of a luxury hotel in Mayfair, Hawthorne Vault supposedly contained Helix's secondary server, its research backups, and, if they were lucky, evidence that could expose Nathaniel to the world. It's suicide, Lewis muttered, staring at the map. Heavily guarded. Probably crawling with drones. Ethan folded the map carefully. Better than waiting to be hunted like dogs. As they argued quietly, a shadow moved in the darkness beyond the platform. Neither of them noticed. A soft scrape. A glint of steel. Suddenly, a figure lunged from the shadows, tackling Lewis to the ground. Another stepped out, a slender woman in black tactical gear, her pistol trained on Ethan. Easy, she said, voice calm and crisp. You're outmatched. Ethan froze. His mind raced. Titan? No. The uniforms were wrong. The equipment older. More worn. The woman tilted her head. Name's Harper. You're making a lot of noise. And noise gets you killed. Lewis grunted from the floor, pinned beneath a burly man with a broken nose. Harper lowered her gun slightly. You're not with Titan. Good. We hate them more than you do. Ethan's hands twitched at his sides. Who are you? A ghost crew. Ex-agents. Left behind. Betrayed by Reed. Bitterness burned in her voice. We know about Helix, Harper continued. And we know you're planning something stupid. The burly man hauled Lewis to his feet with a shove. Lewis scowled but said nothing. You want a shot at Hawthorne? Harper said, eyes narrowing. You'll never make it without us. Ethan hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to trust them. But time was bleeding away. He met Harper's cold gaze. All right, Ethan said slowly. We work together. Harper smiled grimly. You're learning. But somewhere deep inside Ethan, a darker whisper stirred. Trust would be the costliest weapon of all. The night pressed heavily over Mayfair as Ethan, Lewis, Harper, and her crew gathered near the abandoned hotel. It loomed like a ghost, windows shattered, the grand entrance wrapped in rusting chains. Once the playground of London's elite, now just another carcass in a city slowly rotting from the inside. Harper knelt beside the service door, expertly dismantling the ancient alarm system with a quiet click. "You two stay close," she murmured. "No heroics." Ethan exchanged a glance with Lewis, who gave a grim nod. They followed Harper and her crew into the gloom. Inside, the walls were mold-streaked and the carpets reeked of damp decay. Somewhere above them, a loose window pane rattled in the wind. Lewis shivered. "Feels like a tomb." Ethan said nothing. His mind was focused, razor-sharp. They descended a narrow staircase, spiraling into darkness. At the bottom, they reached a heavy steel door, nearly hidden behind a crumbling wall. Harper tapped a few commands into a portable terminal. A soft whir. The door slid open. Beyond it was the Hawthorne vault. Rows of servers blinked in the shadows, the air cool and humming with quiet energy. Security drones floated lazily along the ceiling, their red lights scanning back and forth. Harper pointed. "We split up. 2 minutes. Find the Helix server. Download everything you can." Ethan and Lewis moved quickly, weaving between server racks. Ethan's fingers danced over the keyboard of a terminal. His heart pounded. Directories opened. Encrypted folders. Then, a file. Project Helix. Phase 3. He plugged in a data spike, the device blinking green as it drained the server. Suddenly, a sharp hiss filled the air. From the far side of the vault, a door slammed open. Armed Titan operatives poured in, black armor glinting under the low lights. "It's a trap!" Lewis shouted. Gunfire erupted. Bullets shredded the servers, sparks flying in every direction. Ethan yanked the data spike free and dove behind a metal rack. Harper barked orders, her crew responding with swift, ruthless efficiency. But they were outnumbered. Badly. "Fall back!" Harper screamed. They sprinted toward a maintenance tunnel Harper had mapped earlier. Ethan clutched the data spike like a lifeline. Behind them, Titan agents pursued with brutal determination. A shot grazed Lewis's arm, spinning him into the wall. Ethan grabbed him, pulling him along. At the tunnel's entrance, a Titan drone swooped down, its guns primed. Harper reacted without hesitation. She leapt between them and the drone, firing her sidearm in rapid bursts. The drone exploded in a shower of fire and metal. Harper collapsed, clutching her side. Blood seeped between her fingers. "Go!" she gasped. "Get it out!" Ethan hesitated only a moment before dragging Lewis through the tunnel, heartbreaking with every step. As the vault behind them burned, a cold realization settled in Ethan's bones. Titan had expected them. Someone, somewhere, was still pulling their strings. The safe house was little more than a boarded-up townhouse near King's Cross, cloaked by the crumbling facades of forgotten London. Rain lashed against the windows as Ethan tended to Lewis's wound, his hands trembling slightly despite the adrenaline still burning in his veins. Harper lay on a stained mattress, pale but conscious. Her crew was scattered, some injured, all shaken. Ethan plugged the stolen data spike into a battered laptop. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, flickering as the ancient machine fought to keep up. "What's on it?" Harper rasped. Ethan shook his head. "Still decrypting. But there's something weird. It's not just files. It's alive." Lewis frowned. "Alive." Before Ethan could answer, the laptop screen blinked, once, twice, then stabilized, displaying a simple phrase. "Hello, Ethan." Everyone froze. "Is that part of Helix?" Harper asked, her voice strained. Ethan swallowed hard. "I don't know." The cursor moved again. New words appeared. "I know what you seek. I can show you. But they are coming." Before anyone could react, the laptop speakers crackled to life. A calm, mechanical voice spoke, layered with distortion. "You are in danger. Titan has deployed reclaimer units to your location. Estimated arrival: 3 minutes." Lewis cursed under his breath. "How the hell?" Harper struggled upright. "It's a setup. That thing. It's a double-edged sword." Ethan stared at the screen, heart hammering. "If it can predict them, it can guide us." The laptop flickered again, a map of London appearing, a route highlighted in blood red. "Follow me. Trust no one. No time to argue." Ethan grabbed the laptop, slung it under his arm. He and Lewis helped Harper to her feet. The team stumbled out into the rain, moving fast through the slick alleys and crumbling backstreets. Behind them, a low hum rose in the air, the unmistakable sound of reclaimer units. Machines built for one purpose: capture or eliminate. As they ran, Ethan realized something even more unsettling than the reclaimers behind them. The voice in the laptop. It didn't sound entirely like a machine. It sounded almost human. The rain had turned the alleys into rivers, swallowing their footsteps in the dark. Harper clung to Ethan's arm, each movement a battle against the pain. Lewis led the way, pistol drawn, eyes flicking left and right, scanning for threats. The laptop screen illuminated the path ahead, the ghost in the machine guiding them through the maze. "This way," Ethan whispered, following the pulsing red line on the map. They slipped through a rusted gate into the ruins of an abandoned underground station. Moss clung to the crumbling tiles, and the air was heavy with the scent of rust and rot. Behind them, the sound of metal footsteps grew louder. "Reclaimers!" "Down the platform!" Lewis barked. They stumbled across the slick floor, past the shattered ticket booths and turnstiles frozen in time. As they reached the platform, the laptop beeped urgently. "Emergency access tunnel. Left." Ethan spotted the hatch, almost invisible against the wall, and yanked it open. A foul-smelling gust of air hit them as they descended into the darkness. The hatch slammed shut just as the reclaimers burst onto the platform above. For a moment, everything was silence and blackness. Ethan switched on the laptop's torchlight, casting a narrow beam through the cramped tunnel. The walls here were different. Older than anything in London's official maps. Symbols and markings, half erased by time, lined the stones. "This isn't just an old maintenance tunnel," Harper said, her voice a hoarse whisper. Lewis touched one of the symbols, frowning. "This place. It was hidden for a reason." They moved deeper, the tunnel sloping downward. The laptop guided them, turning left, right, then left again, until they emerged into a cavernous space beneath the city. An ancient station, untouched for decades. Dust-coated abandoned machinery and broken rails. Strange metallic structures hung from the ceiling, like cocoons. Harper leaned heavily against Ethan. "Where are we?" The laptop beeped once more. "Sanctuary. For now." As they caught their breath, Ethan realized something chilling. The further they followed the ghost, the deeper they went, not just beneath London, but beneath Titan's control. And something down here was waiting. Watching. The ancient station trembled as something shifted deep below. Ethan tightened his grip on Harper's hand, glancing at Lewis. His friend's face was pale, jaw clenched. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the stone and metal. The laptop flickered to life. Final access point. 60 meters. They moved cautiously, the ghostly light from the laptop leading them across the abandoned tracks, through a tangle of wires and debris. Shadows seemed to slither just beyond the edges of the light. At the far end of the cavern stood a door, massive and seamless, unlike anything else in the ruins. Symbols carved around its frame pulsed faintly as they approached. Harper faltered, grimacing in pain. Ethan caught her before she fell. "We're close," he whispered. Lewis knelt by the door, studying the carvings. "It's a lock. A biometric one. Very old tech, or very new." The laptop beeped urgently. "Use the key." Ethan pulled the small metallic disc from his pocket, the one the ghost had given him at the beginning of their journey. It shimmered in the dim light. He pressed it against the door. The symbols flared brilliant blue. With a rumble that shook the ground, the door slid open, revealing a chamber beyond. Inside, cables hung like vines, connecting a massive central machine to the walls, the ceiling, even the floor. At the heart of it all was a cylindrical pod, glowing softly. In the center of the pod floated a woman, or something that had once been a woman, suspended in liquid, eyes closed, cables plugged into her spine and skull. The laptop spoke for the first time, its voice cold and distant. Subject: Eden. Architect of Titan. Ethan staggered back. "She's alive." Lewis stared at the pod, horror dawning on his face. "No. She is Titan." The realization hit them all at once. Titan wasn't just a machine. It was a parasite, feeding on Eden's mind, enslaving her genius to control the world above. Suddenly, alarms blared through the chamber. Red lights bathed everything in a hellish glow. A hidden door slammed open across the room. Reclaimers flooded in, not human this time, but towering, skeletal machines with blades for arms and eyes burning crimson. Harper gritted her teeth, raising the pistol Lewis had given her. "End it," she hissed. "End her suffering. End Titan." Ethan knew what he had to do. His hand trembled as he raised the laptop, following the ghost's final command. "Disconnect her." The machines roared, charging towards them. They had seconds. Ethan ran. Straight toward the heart of the machine,